Hello, welcome to The Voice. My name is Adly and I'm happy to be with you today. Today we are going to talk about a topic of history. We want to understand what happened in history from the time of Alexander to today. We want to understand the question that is always being asked of the European rulership over the world. Have the European ruling the world as they mean, or as they always say, that the European rule the world? Have they been ruling the world from the time of Alexander, or is that question really a fact? Today we want to understand this, and for that reason I bring you this topic today and want you to participate, and then you can comment on the video and tell us what you think, and just share your thought with us in that video. We're gonna cover this topic, but before we go any further, we want to let you know we have published 3 books, and those books are in the description. You can see the link in the description if you want to buy one of them. And those books you can see on the screen here. 2 of them are history, and then one of them is a futuristic book that talk about a world that is so beautiful, a world that is so peaceful that anybody would love to live in. And as I said already, the links are in the video below, and you can click on those links if you want to buy that book. For a long time, we know a lot of people are talking about history, and many people take history as facts, as many people rely on that to understand what happened in the past. Okay, but really, is history really facts all the time? Are all books that is written about history actually telling you the truth about what happened in the past? Today in this topic, we want to look at what happened with the European over the the time of Alexander. When Alexander came, I would say in the picture around 336 BCE, when Alexander actually started to conquer lands around the world. Has Alexander really conquered the entire world, as many people talk about? Many people said that Alexander conquered the world. But when we look into the history of Alexander, we can see that Alexander came into power around 336 BCE. Around that time when Alexander come into power, Alexander was only about, I would say 20 something. Okay, so Alexander come into power and then started his quest of conquering land around the world. Conquest to conquer land around the world, we can see that he was able to achieve a lot of success. Okay, he actually was able to do a lot of things. So conquering many pieces of land, including Kemet, that a lot of people know today as Egypt. And Alexander didn't spend that long for him to die. Okay, from the 336 BCE to 323 BCE, Alexander ruled for about 12 years. 12 years that he run around the world and conquering land from Europe down into Egypt, which we call Egypt today, and then from Egypt then he went into Asia and India, and he was able to conquer a bunch of land. Yes, he did. So the question that left to ask is, whether Alexander really conquered the world? During the time of all these wars that Alexander was, he was controlling, all this war that he was doing, did Alexander ever conquer the continent of Africa? This is a question to ask, because when the European write in the history that the European were ruling the world around the time of Alexander, the Greeks, the Roman, and so, was that really true? As we can see in this image that we are looking in the screen, you can see that Alexander really did not conquer the whole world. Alexander actually conquered a great part of Asia. As you can see, a great part of Asia was conquered by Alexander, and going down into Africa, he was only able to conquer piece of Africa, which is around Egypt. He just was able to conquer Egypt, and then after conquering Egypt, you can see his conquest was completely dead. Right there, his conquest was dead. So does that mean, or does that make sense to agree that Alexander conquered the world? Because he was rolling from Macedonia down into Asia and taking Egypt. Was that mean Alexander ruled the world? Or was that even mean the Greek ruled the world? That is the question. Because there's a lot of things in history that they do not tell us, and sometimes they try to make you believe because today the Europeans are in power. They want to make you believe that they have always been in power and their power never had anybody that could challenge them. And that is very, very wrong, because Alexander or the Greek never conquered the world. As you can see in the image, they only had access, or they were able to conquer part of Europe, and going down in Asia, conquer a big piece of Asia, and also they conquered Egypt, which in my book, or the title, The Red Man, you will see that according to the history, Alexander did not really conquer Egypt, but was they used the tactic of overthrowing a government to take control, because Egypt invited Alexander, or the army of Greece, or the army of Alexander, to come and help them to fight those Hyksos. And when they were fighting the Hyksos, that's when the Greek kingdom, or the Greek army, overthrew them after they lost to the Hyksos. Okay, that's when the Greek kingdom overthrew them. But they really never conquered Egypt, like going to a war with Egypt and conquered Egypt. They never did. They never did. And now, if we look into Alexander, after Alexander died, after Alexander died, you see that there was a breaking in that kingdom, or that empire that he built in those 12 years. After 12 years of building his empire, he did. And then he died. You have that war called the Diadochi War. The Diadochi War come on, where you have Alexander's general fighting among themselves to hold power. Even though after he's dead, his half brother and his son was named heir for them to take control of the kingdom, but they were assassinated and thrown away, and the kingdom was taken, or people were fighting within the kingdom. You have Alexander's general were fighting among themselves. So during that time, Greece did not control anything, or if you would say the European race was not in control of anything. They really were fighting among themselves around this time. For 12 years, if you can think about it, right now, America has about 34 years in power from 1991. Think about it. From 1991, about 34 years in power. Does that mean America been ruling the world forever? Alexander only ruled for 12 years. 12 years the kingdom was together. And after 12 years, he died. Then you have war break out in the kingdom, or in the empire, where people were fighting themselves. You have his generals, they were fighting each other. They couldn't sit together to just take one decision and let one person rule the kingdom or the empire, but they were fighting to get power. And during that time, the kingdom was not ruling anyone, because they were at war among themselves. Then you have the son of Alexander and his half brother die during that war of Diadochi. Then going down around 301 BC, the war get even worse. The war get even worse during the battle of Opsis. Then you have the kingdom, or the empire, break into three pieces, three kingdom, and those kingdom where you have Ptolemy who ruled in Egypt. So Ptolemy took over Egypt. He took control in Egypt, and which is the kingdom, I would say, that was probably the strongest around that time, because he was able to unify some of those people around this kingdom and be able to make a lot of progress, especially creating the Library of Alexandria and all these, which were extracted out of the books of Egypt that were already available. But in reality, were they control the world? No, Ptolemy was not control the world. He was a king in Egypt. He was a king in Egypt, and that's the reason why today you have a lot of mummy, a lot of archaeology showing you that some white people or some European race rule Egypt, but it was not the ancient Egypt, what we call Kemet, but it was just in Egypt during the time after the war of Ipsus was completed. So Ptolemy took control of Egypt and ruled Egypt around that time. But now, still right there, we don't see anywhere where they were controlling the world. Okay, you got the Roman coming in around sometime later. But once the kingdom split, like I said, you have Ptolemy control one kingdom, and you have some other kingdom in the east control one of them that was controlled by Seleucid, which called the Seleucid Empire, and you have Antigonid kingdom in Macedonia. Okay, so those three kingdoms that existed at that time, they were controlling themselves in their little location. They were not controlling the world per se. For someone to say that, oh, European controlled the world around that time, they did not. All that time of Alexander and also those three kingdoms, Africa was completely free beside Egypt. Okay, beside Egypt, Africa was completely free. There were many kingdoms in Africa at that time that exist that were controlled by African, that were striving during those time. Okay, there were many kingdoms while these three kingdoms existed on their own, controlling their own little location. Okay, so around 300 BC, you have those kingdoms started to fade away. Around 27 BCE, you have the Roman Empire that started to take shape. And when the Roman Empire started to take shape, they started to conquer part of those kingdoms that existed around this time, including Egypt, and you have Seleucid and Antigonid kingdom. They started to swallow those kingdoms, but still that doesn't make them control the world. Even during the time of the Roman, if you look at that picture on the screen right here, you will see that the Roman themselves also did not control Africa. During the time of the Roman, Africa was completely free, except the north of Africa. So the Roman did a little bit better than the Greek. They went over to the north of Africa. They were able to take some part of north of Africa and rule over that part of land. But the remaining fertile land of Africa down in the South African land, you did not find any European power controlling that during that time. They did not have any power to conquer this land. So that means during that time, the European also was not controlling the world. They did not control the world around that time, around the time of the Roman. And you have the Roman that controlled for about 503 years, if you would take it in context, from 27 BCE to 476 AD. Around that time, the Roman also, they controlled for about 503 years. I would say the max is 503 years. But around that time, they did not control the whole world. That is fact. And that's the reason why we need to ask in history. Is everything saying about things that happen in history is true? Or is someone trying to hide information because they don't want you to know? Or they just want to give you or tell you, I would say, a fake part of history so that you can believe what they want you to believe? Because that's the way it's seen. But when we look deep into history, we can tell 100% the European, from the time of Alexander the Great to the time of the Roman up to 476, they did not control the world. They just control a little bit of Asia. They control some part of North Africa and Europe itself. That means they were controlling Europe. But after the Roman Empire fall, what happened? You had the Moors that come and take control. But during the time of the Roman, even during the time of the Roman, you find so many other kingdoms existed at that time. And the Roman did not control those kingdoms. Even in Europe, for example, you have the Carthage. The Roman did not control the Carthage. You have the Macedonian also that existed, like I said, but that was at the very beginning of the Roman Empire when they were coming in, and the Seleucid Empire during that time. And you have, during the time of the Roman, the Barbarian kingdom. And also you have the Vandal, you have the Visigothic kingdom, and you have the Salian kingdom also existed around that time. And there was also what we call the Alemannic kingdom. Those kingdoms existed while the Roman Empire were existed, and they were around the Roman Empire. They could not conquer them. They could not conquer those kingdoms. So basically, in reality, if you look at that history or the angle of that history, you can see for a fact the European were not in control of the world. They were controlling of some large piece of land as an empire, or as the Roman Empire and the Greek Empire, which split, in three pieces after the War of Ipsos. Okay, then now, as the Roman Empire was, at its peak, you have many other kingdoms exist, at the later time, like the Han Dynasty from China, and also you have the Mauryan Empire in India at that time also that existed. So basically, not only those kingdoms existed, you have many kingdoms that were rival of the Greek, rival of the Roman Empire at that time, that were trying to destroy the Roman Empire, and they could not conquer those kingdoms. So when the Europeans said they rule the world, you ask yourself, are they telling you the truth, or what are they trying to say in that exactly there? So it's just like saying that America have been controlling the world for 249 years after America fall. Let's say America fall today, and then 200 years from today or 100 years from today, someone come and write a book or come up with a history document and said that American ruled the world for 249 years, since America is 249 years today. Let's say America fall today. While if we look at the history angle of America, we can see that, okay, before America come into power, around the 1400, which I'm going to talk about when the Moors take control of Europe, before America come in control, it was the French, it was the Spanish, it was the Portuguese, and the Rome, I would say the German, okay? It was those countries. And then you have America come around the 1947, where you have two groups controlling the world. You have the Soviet Union and you have the American. But at this point there, America was not in control of the world. Okay? America was not in control. So if someone would come with a statement said America been controlling the world for 249 years, that would be considered wrong, because we know it is wrong, because in reality, America took their power over the world after the Cold War in 1991, when the Soviet Union destroyed. After the Soviet Union destroyed, then America become the superpower, or what we call the sole superpower in the world. But does that mean America has been ruling the world for 249 years? No, it's just 34 years. I am even older than that. So it is important to understand how kingdom come and fall. We must understand that the Europeans have not been controlling the world forever. They have not really been controlling the world for that long, because during all those time that I just talked about, Africa has remained free, a free land ruled by his people, okay, by many kingdoms. As you can see here in this picture, during those time, Africa was free, completely free, okay. During the time of the Roman, yes, they took control of North Africa, but that doesn't mean they control Africa, because most of the greater kingdom were in the south of Africa. They were not in the North African land, which was a barren land, or what we call desert. It's a desert land. So they were not there. They were in the fertile land down in Africa. So they were never conquered, and they had great kingdom there during those times. That that rules for thousands of years. Now you have around before 1400, about for 800 years, after the fall of the Roman in 476, you have the Moors that come into power. When they come into power, they conquer Europe. I would say not all Europe, but mostly Spain, and they spread their culture over there. They spread Muslim culture, and I know many people don't want to believe that that the Moors were black people, but the truth is a lot, okay? It's a lot. It's out there. So if you want to know the truth, you will find the truth. It is there. Yes, there was a mix of people at the very beginning of the conquest that were not African, but later it was taken control by African, and those African rules the European region for years until the 1400. when they lost power and they were expelled from Europe, which, later was taken control by the European. And from that time, they come to conquest, or from that time, they decided to conquer many places in Africa. And how did they do it? Way before they they overthrew the Moors, they had already sent many people in many kingdoms in Africa, study those kingdoms. They understood what was going on in those kingdoms. And there are many books written by Europeans talking about how the African kingdom at that time were great kingdom. Like you have the great Zimbabwe, you have the kingdom of Mali. Back then, you have many kingdoms, the Songhai Empire, you have the Kushite Empire. There were many kingdoms in that time, but those kingdoms were free kingdoms. Well, when the European overthrew the Moors, then they have access to those kingdoms. They know how those people were function, and they went over and overthrew those people. They come in, and it was not something that happened easy. It happened over a period of time. It didn't just happen where European just come and say, "Hey, give me this kingdom." First, they play the role of divided and conquer, divide and conquer. They played the role of divide and conquer to divide the people, make them fight among themselves, and then conquer them. And from that point on, they started the slave conquest, or the slave campaign, where they put in slave many African people and destroy the African kingdoms that exist at that time. But to let you know, in reality, has the European really conquered or ruled the world forever? No. No, they have not. They have conquered from time to time, and then today we can say the American people seem to have control over the world. But are they really controlling the whole world? No. The Americans have control over some places, and the only reason they have control over those countries is because they have what we call partnership with the European race in total. So basically the French, the German, the British, all of those European nations, they working with America to keep control. But if they have been divided, where America was his own, kingdom, trying to control itself and also control over the European, trust me, America would have already been overthrown. They would have already been, destroyed by those nations. They would have already been thrown away and lose that power they have today for 34 years. And that is the truth. No European nation has ever controlled the world. None of them. None has ever controlled the world. My friend, it was a pleasure for me to be with you today. And I would ask you again one more time, to check my book out. I have 3 books, like I said, that I have published, and I have the links in the video. So if you want, you can go down in the video. You will see the link in the comment. Click on those and check them out. One of them is very interesting, like I said, because it's a futuristic book that talk about a world that is so beautiful, a world where there is no misery, a world of technology that anybody can find themselves in. Just check this book out and let me know what you think. And I would ask you also to not forget to subscribe in that channel, subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell so that the next time I drop another video, you can find it. And also, share this video with your friend and family.